Blue winter sky, white snow. The infinite feud stretched out in front of the heroine. The Duchy of Gassenweitz, which was more prosperous than the imperial system itself, was once the only duchy in the empire that even had its own royal throne. And according to the concluded marriage contract, the heroine must become a member of this family. The girl could not imagine that she would get married at the age of 13. The young lady is told that they have finally arrived. After leaving the carriage, Hassenweitz Castle opens before the lady's eyes. At this moment, she realizes that she will really become part of this family. The girl was born in a family whose name was no more than a speck of dust. Her mother, who had poor health and started to get sick after giving birth, thanks to the father, who became a debtor to the imperial family and put a noble title as collateral, the heroine's mother was able to receive treatment and soon fully recovered. But a huge debt remained. His Highness informs that if the father sends his daughter as a wife for the young master, then all debts will be forgiven. Judging by the conversation about the ducal family of Hessenweitz, the father understands that he is talking about an ice demon, a blue-blooded silver dragon, and the most dangerous friend of the emperor. The girl also understands that the man is talking about a family about which there are terrible rumors. The young lady's father tries to explain to the secretary that Ella is his only daughter, and if the head of the heroine's family does not want it, then they ask him if he is ready to immediately pay the debt. In the face of my lady's father, the man decides that he does not want to pay the debt and give his daughter away, so he can bring down the wrath of his highness on himself. Viscount Blanchette asks to give him a little more time. The girl notices that the debt repayment term has not yet expired, but her father is being forcefully pressured. Ella doesn't want to get married, but she doesn't want to see her father bow his head even more. "I will get married," shouts the lady, thereby shocking the men. In the present, the servant, leaving the girl alone, points to a room that she can use. After entering it, Ellie notices that the room that was allocated to her turns out to be a guest room. She did not expect that the room in which the hostess will live will be a guest room. She asks how it is possible to be so dismissive of her. Suddenly, a maid named Mary comes to her. She says that she will temporarily take care of the heroine. Ellie decides to ask where his grace and the young master are now. The maid tells that his eminence is inspecting his possessions, and the young master went to subdue the demonic beasts. The young lady asks about demon beasts, and the woman explains that the guy often does that. The last time he subjugated a barbarian clan, the guy single-handedly invaded the enemy squad and even cut off the head of their leader. Ellie is horrified by such news, not believing that the maid is talking about her future husband. The girl decides to notice that the young master has not yet reached adulthood. "Yes, but in spite of that, isn't he a shocker?" asks the maid. The heroine reflects on the fact that this year the boy turned 15 years old, and she is surprised that he is already taking part in such dangerous battles. Milady is asked a question based on what she heard, whether she will soon become a widow. Ellie asks when the young master can return. The maid replies that his trip will be delayed for about a week. Also, the woman conveys the words of His Eminence that when her future husband returns, the three of them will meet. The maid notices that she will bring food to the girl's room, which she does not mind. Looking out the window, the heroine is finally convinced that the Duke will not be friendly with her. However, he also does not spare his only son. Based on this, it seems to Ella that the life of the ducal family is not so simple. Judging by his appearance, Milady decides that Herzog Hessenweitz does not look as nasty and rude as she thought. Therefore, the girl wonders if she should expect that her husband's appearance will also be good. A week later, the young master returned to the castle. When the young lady goes down the stairs, soon she sees a boy whose whole body is wounded. Ellie realizes that he must receive immediate treatment, but everyone stands there as if frightened. The Duke notices that his son is late despite the fact that he ordered to subdue the demonic beasts within 3 days, assuring that if he appointed a monster as his successor, he would do better. The boy in front of my lady asks for forgiveness from his father. The girl is surprised that Duke can say such cruel words to his own son. She believes that the one who is really doing wrong is the head of the family. After all, he himself remained in a safe castle and sent his little child into battle. However, it seems to Ella that the boy is not really sorry. "Poor child," the boy's father says and slaps him in the face. The Duke decided to do this because, according to him, the young man not only failed to comply with his instructions, but also dared to show such a shameless attitude. Observing what is happening, the girl wonders why no one will stop the man. Turning to the head of the family, my lady greets the Duke of Hessenweitz, saying her name is Ella Blanchette. The Duke asks why the child who is connected to the royal family came here. The girl explains that she heard how the young master returned home, so she decided to meet him as a wife. The man asks how, despite the orders of the imperial family, she dares to call herself the wife of this monster. Ellie replies that although His Majesty really sent her here, she still considers the young master as her husband. Looking at the boy, she asks to be allowed to say something else. The lady notices that the young master needs immediate treatment. However, Duke assures the girl that monsters do not need treatment. Hearing such words, Ellie asks herself that if her husband is a monster, then who is this man who uses his son in this way? I don't think so. The heroine assures that the boy is not a monster. The Duke begins to laugh out loud at the little girl's words. He finds what is happening funny and decides to ask the young man what he thinks about what was said. The boy is silent, and the man begins to wonder if his son will really ignore his master and father. Finally, the young man replies that if his father thinks so, then he must be a monster. Grinning, Herzog notes that the boy must understand this question well. Addressing the knights and servants, he praises them for their good work and allows them to go home and rest. After the head of the family has left, the girl decides to turn to the young hostess. "Don't come closer," shouts the boy, wondering who the young lady is. Exhaling, she answers the question of a completely wounded young man that she is his wife. The young master is surprised by such news. He hears for the first time that he has a wife. Ellie explains that she appeared to him while he was busy subduing demonic animals. "That's you." The young man tried to say something, but suddenly blood gushed from his head and he began to lose consciousness. The heroine took the boy by the hand, and the young master asked him to let him go. The girl begins to wonder if she should really let go of his hand, because her legal husband is now on the verge of losing consciousness. Helping the young hostess to go, Ellie asks where his room is. Assuming that the boy's name is Zakar, she asks if that is really his name. Smelling a pleasant aroma, the young man asks why the heroine is next to him, because everyone avoids him. But first, the young lady asks to answer her question, because it is very difficult. Carrying him into the room, after they cross the threshold, the boy falls to the floor, and the girl asks if he is okay. He assures that everything is fine with him, so she does not need to shake him. Ella asks not to put the young man to sleep, because he must receive treatment. Looking at the young master, my lady realizes that if everything stays like this, he really can die. She decides to shout for help, calling at least someone. "Don't call anyone," the boy asks, grabbing Ella's dress. The girl opposes her husband's request and assures that he must receive treatment immediately. The boy again asks not to call anyone. Zakar does not want to see anyone because he is a monster. Taking the young man by the face, the young lady assures him that he is not a monster, so she asks him to stop humiliating himself, because when she hears this, she becomes furious. Ellie notices that now is not the time to talk nonsense, because he has to get medical help. The young hostess thinks that the girl is worried about him, but suddenly he removes the heroine's hands from his face. Zakar gets angry and says that she doesn't even know what kind of person he is. The young man does not believe her, because everyone first approaches him after seeing his appearance, but then leaves with disdain. However, my lady knows something for sure. Now in front of her is a small child who is seriously injured and who must receive immediate treatment. She also notices the character of the boy, saying that he is restless like a small child. But there is one thing that Ella is absolutely sure of. The person she sees in front of her is not a monster at all. "Strange girl," says Zakar, falling and losing consciousness. The heroine rushes to him, shouting the name of the young master, who slowly closes his eyes. The boy has a nightmare in which he remembers all the bad words said to him, all the accusations, even in the death of his own mother, all because he is a monster. His birth was like the birth of a monster. He tried his best to get even a drop of love, but nothing changed. Zakar believes that if this continues, it would be better if he was not born at all. "Would it be easier if I died?" the boy asks himself. Suddenly, the girl's voice once again assures the young master that he is not a monster, and therefore asks him to get up immediately because he must take the medicine. At this moment, the boy wakes up as if from the most terrifying nightmare. Seeing this, Ellie thinks about how she could bend the stick. She gives the young man a glass of water and medicine, indicating that he needs to take it all. Zachary looks at the pills, and the girl thinks that he cannot take them because they are bitter. The lady is surprised that her husband still has taste like a child's. She asks if she should put the medicine in his mouth herself, but the guy throws pills into his mouth and asks to forget about it. After the boy drank the pills, the girl gives him a sweet candy. "Now isn't it bitter?" the heroine asks, smiling. Enjoying the sweetness of the candy, Zakar asks the young lady why she is here. In response, she is surprised by such a question, answering how it is possible to leave a sick person alone. Ella, clarifying that her husband did not ask to call anyone, says that she just stopped by the doctor and took care of him all day, like a nurse. Hearing this, the boy asked if someone had ordered her to babysit him. The girl, noting Zakar's nasty character as well, wonders if he can't just say thank you to her. The boy thinks and realizes that in such situations it is enough to simply thank him. Having understood what kind-heartedness is, he thanks her and notes that now she can go to her place. Meanwhile, Zakar begins to think that being next to a monster is in many ways a rather unpleasant activity. And if I don't want to leave? Ellie asks. She believes that she should be here so that the boy gets better as soon as possible. But he does not understand what the fact that he will become better has to do with her. The heroine explains that everything is because he is the one who will ensure her future, because the young man is her legal husband. She says that because of her family's debt to the imperial family, she came to this place instead of the princess, so she has nowhere to retreat. And because she was sent to them by the imperial family, the duke was not particularly happy with the girl. According to her, anything can happen if something happens to Zakar or if she ever gets divorced. In general, she wants to say that there will be no one on her side in the duke's castle except him. Because of this, Ella will do everything possible to be close to him, because he is the one she needs. The boy is surprised that he is needed by the heroine. She assures him that this is true, and assumes that someday she will also be needed by him. Therefore, he asks him to stop feeling burdened or feel remorse, and also not to think that he is a monster. From such a request, Zakar had the feeling that she was looking right into his soul. Ella asks them to rest well and assures that they will see each other again tomorrow. "Will you come to see me again tomorrow?" the boy asks my lady, who is about to leave. Saying goodbye to him, the young lady explains that in any case they are legal spouses and allies in the duke's castle, so she will visit him again tomorrow. Left alone, the young man begins to think about how Ella Blanchette was the only one who took his side and said that she needed him. And it finally dawns on him that she is also his wife. Asking what is happening to him, he assures himself that the girl has already become necessary to him. In the room of the young duke, where only lonely silence reigned, there was recently a girl with pink hair who entered and left the room as if it were her own home. "Good morning," says Ellie, opening the door to her husband's room. She opens the curtains and is surprised that the boy is still sleeping, calling him a dream. Screaming at him, the girl asks him to stop sleeping and get up quickly. Zakar, who just woke up, asks her when she came. Ellie answers that only and again asks him to wake up. Wiping his eyes, the young master assures that he has already woken up. The young lady says that the doctor told her to use another ointment from today. Noticing that she still needs to change his bandages, she intends to apply ointment to his wounds. But the young man assures that he can do it himself. Asking him to forget about his useless stubbornness, Ellie asks him how he was going to smear the wounds on his back. Having started the procedure and already removed the bandages, the girl asks if the young hostess is in pain. He assures that everything is in order, noting that it is tolerable. "What else does it mean, tolerable?" asks the question of my friend. Ellie realizes that if her husband had been an ordinary child, he would have lost consciousness by now. Suddenly, the bandage begins to unravel, and the heroine wonders if she put it on incorrectly. Zakar begins to laugh at what is happening, smiling sincerely. The boy notices that Ella's bandage does not cover anything. "Shut up." The girl answers this, explaining that humanity exists because there is something that a person cannot do. He asks to give her a bandage, then bandages himself and asks if the heroine is satisfied. Seeing this, the girl begins to think about how much Zakar bandaged himself. Then she asks the boy to turn his back to her. Treating the wounds, she saw a scar that looked like a cut inflicted by a person. She decides to ask about this scar, and the young master, hearing this, is immediately horrified. "Don't look!" shouts Zakar, pushing his wife further. Horrified, the girl asks the young man why he is behaving like that. After coming to his senses, the boy asks for forgiveness, intending to explain his actions. However, before the beginning, he wonders what will happen if he tells about the scar that indicates his original sin, confirming that he is a monster, fearing that Ella will begin to despise him. Zakar is sure that the girl, like his father, will also begin to treat her terribly. Looking at the uncertain boy, Ellie realizes that he does not want to talk about it, and explains to him that if he does not want it, then he may not tell, because a person may have a past that he does not want to reveal. Therefore, if he does not want to talk about it, then everything is in order. However, my lady still insists that they finish the dressing. She asks if he wants to hurry up to her and sit down. Continuing to bandage him, Ellie notices that the boy has so many scars that it is impossible to count, and the treatment was insignificant. The Duke neglected his son as if he wanted him to die. A quiet ducal castle where nothing escapes the watchful eye of the owner. The girl asks with what kind of heart Zakar lived all this time. The heroine asks him if the local people really consider the exploitation of minors their hobby. Why are you angry? The young owner notices and asks her a question. Calling the boy a fool, she replies that people are simply using him in a dangerous business. She asks if Zakar was angry that the child was being pushed into a battle that could cost him his life. He doesn't know how to answer her, and the young lady says that in any case, since he is her legal husband, then at least she should be angry because of this. The young man assumes that she thinks of him as her family. Aren't we a family? Asks the girl, having heard his guesses. It occurs to her that this could be because they suddenly became a family. The young master thinks that this is not the case at all. In fact, he wants to become one family with her, but he does not understand how much he can expect from her. He worries that he might become too greedy, and then she might suddenly move away from him. In this case, the young lady offers to start with the fact that they will become friends. However, Zakar explains that his father does not want him to make friends with a girl. Ella does not understand what this means, because her husband is a young master, not a duke. Because of this, the young lady suggests that maybe she doesn't like the boy. The boy tries to assure that this is not the case at all, and his words reach Milady. She says that she trusts him, so she asks him not to say any nonsense. Ellie notices her husband's beautiful smile and shares it with him, saying that he looks even more attractive with such a smile. The girl advises him to smile more often, because it is possible other people will like it as well as her. But the boy thinks that she was disgusted by this and decides to ask about it. The lady is surprised by this and assures that his smiling face is beautiful. Suddenly, the young master has the idea that even a monster that ate its own mother can be happy. Smiling at her, he says about himself that he is afraid. But if Ella likes it, he is ready to take on the hatred of the whole world. The maids begin to talk among themselves about how much Zakar has changed, and that he even smiles at the maids who made a mistake. It seems to them that everything is the fault of the mistress. They notice how the children spend every day together in the young master's room. According to Mary, they have become very good friends and even talk to each other in you. The Duke comes to them, and the maids ask his forgiveness for daring to speak about the boy. The man assures that everything is fine. He decides to ask again about the fact that his son has become softer. The maids say that this is true and that he even smiles at them. The next day, Ella was invited to have breakfast with the Duke. Lying in bed, the girl talks about how tired she is. She also notes that she was so excited that she couldn't even close her eyes. The maid comes to her and asks how Milady slept last night, having noticed that she got up very early today. Combing her hair, the maid shares the rumor that Ella will have breakfast today with the Duke and the young master, noting that finally the new family will have breakfast together. Then the maid offers the young lady to dress up. The girl also decides to wear something appropriate because it is somehow similar to an official dinner. However, the servant says that my lady is really gorgeous. With her help, the Duke and the young master will have breakfast together. Therefore, the lady thinks that she should pray so that no fight happens. Suddenly, someone knocks on their room, and it turns out to be Zakar. The heroine is surprised that the boy came after her. He is not yet fully recovered, so she asks if he can accompany her. However, this young master is silent, standing stunned by Ella's beauty. Ellie notices that the boy has a red face, so she thinks he might have a temperature. Embarrassed, Zakar shouts that everything is fine with him. From such a cry, the girl herself confirms that he really does not have a temperature. The young owner thinks about the fact that for the first time he sees Ella in such a dress, like the fairy Asha from the legend. He decides to tell about it directly, saying that the young lady is very beautiful today. It dawns on the boy that he just said what he was thinking. The young lady with a smile on her face thanks him, and also notes that the young man looks beautiful today. Looking at him, Ella wonders who would want such a husband, because he is handsome. The maid escorts the heroes, wishing them to have a good time. Ellie waves her hand in farewell to the maid, and assures that she will be back soon. Taking the young master by the hand, my lady asks if it is difficult for him to walk, and also offers her help. Looking at the couple, the maid thinks they are really beautiful. She was also surprised that their rude young master came to fetch the mistress. On the way, Ella notices that her husband suddenly darkened to his surprise. Unexpectedly for the girl, Zakar asks her since when she became so friendly with the maid. Answering that quite recently, Ella thinks that the boy is jealous. After asking about it and seeing his reaction, she is convinced of it and therefore considers him a cutie. Zakar decides to ask the girl about the fact that she is now staying in the guest room. The young lady thinks that nothing can be done here, since she did not like His Eminence. As the boy thought, it is because of him. Noticing that the young master has darkened even more, Ellie assures him that it is not his fault, all because she married him instead of the princess. Reminding the boy that he is beautiful when he smiles, she asks what he should do now. When the young man starts to smile, the heroine thinks about the fact that this child is very obedient. When they sit together with the Duke at the table, the man notices that his son has a sad expression on his face today. Asking how he can be happy alone, Zakar explains to his father that he gets irritated every time he sees him. Although the boy says so, His Eminence shares his observations that the young man has been having a lot of fun lately. The Duke says that he knows that Zakar made friends with the girl who was sent by the imperial family. Hearing this, Ellie wonders if the man is talking about her now. "Everything is as you see it, father," Zakar replies. The Duke wonders if his son means that this is only his own opinion. The boy explains to his father that this means, regardless of what he answers, you will think the way he wants. Listening to his son's statement, Herzog notices that he has just expressed his opinion for the first time. After a short silence, Ego Svetlust offers to start the meal. Ellie thinks about the tense atmosphere. She feels as if she will vomit from just one sip of water. Looking at Zakar, the girl begins to worry about him, because he has not completely recovered, and despite his efforts to hide it, it seems that he is very difficult. She decides to turn to His Eminence, explaining that the young hostess is not feeling well. Because of this, it is difficult for him to attend the official breakfast. The Duke replies that he accepted the monster as the heir to the house, so he must endure at least this little thing. The man asks how long the girl plans to communicate with this child, warning that he might also hate her. Ella casts a glance at the frightened young master, who reads a plea not to answer this question. In response, the young lady expresses her opinion about the Duke's behavior now, considering it absurd. In her thoughts, the heroine asks the boy not to worry, because she is not going to leave him. Ellie reminds him that he is the ruler of the North and the only Duke of the Empire. In any case, power is a law that must be promoted with a certain amount of generosity and responsibility, but according to the girl, His Grace only puts his authority first. Reminding him that he sent his son to dangerous battles countless times and calls him a monster, the heroine asks where his responsibility as a father was. In addition, Ellie notices that this is the same as asking her to stay away from his son. "That's why you're so unhappy?" Herzog is interested. The lady answers that this is why, because she intends to cherish and respect her husband, and she does not want to hear such threats. After the heroine spoke, she wondered if what she said would become a reason for divorce. The Duke is surprised at how, in his words, the insignificant daughter of the Marquise dares to teach him. Ella wants to object to the man, but Zakar makes the first move. Thanks to her, he assures that he will speak from this moment on. The boy says that he can accept such an attitude towards himself, and the fact that he is called a monster, but he will not tolerate such an attitude towards Ella. The Duke explains that the fact that she was taken out of necessity is not enough to be called the wife of a member of the Hessenweit's house. The man is surprised at how someone sent by the imperial family can be considered as family. Zakar assures that on the contrary, he is not good enough to be called her husband. According to him, she is his family, so he asks his father to show her respect. "Do you remember who gave you a name?" asks Herzog. The boy claims that he remembers, but he wonders who else can bear this name besides him. The father accepts his son's opinion, and getting up from the table, he says that he will only observe from now on. After what happened, Ellie asks the boy how he is and why he started a fight with Herzog, because she is perfectly fine. Zakar considers this natural, because she also quarreled with his father because of him, so he fought for the girl. Saying that she is his wife, the young master asserts that he must make sure that Ella is taken care of throughout her life. "I want to protect your happiness," says the boy, smiling at his wife. According to the young lady, if he says that, he should get better soon. The young man is perplexed by her words, and she, embarrassed, notices his words that he must protect her. Smiling, the boy only asks that the girl not hate him. A few days later, Zakar asks his wife how her new room is. Milady thanks him for this, but notices that she is a little embarrassed because she is so good. Zachary says that he actually wanted to provide a much better room. Ellie says that it is also moderately luxurious. Looking out the window, the young lady notices that Ash's flowers will bloom soon. She would like it to happen as soon as possible. The young owner says that he did not know that she loves these flowers. "And you don't like them?" asks the girl. But the young man doesn't even know, because Ash's ducal flower never interested him. Zakhar decides that he probably likes them too, and tells Milady about it. The young lady says that she would like to visit the Asha blooming festival, but due to the fact that Duke hates her, it will be very difficult to go to him. In the kingdom, this festival is known for its beauty and grandeur. "Shall we go together?" says the young man. He assures the girl that no matter how much hatred he receives from his father, he can make sure that his wife can go to the festival that she so wants to visit. The young lady thanks him for this and shares that she is looking forward to it. On the day of the festival, they eat together in the carriage. Looking out the window, Ella says that she could not imagine that she would be able to visit the festival. She decides to ask if the young owner knows that Asha's flower is also called spring flower. He replies that he did not know about it. The heroine notices that despite the fact that this is a symbol of the duchy, the boy is too indifferent. Milady promises to teach him later to distinguish cherry blossoms from Asha's blossoms. While the young lady tells that Asha's flowers are much larger than sakura and have a strong smell, Zakhar admires, in his words, a cutie. The young owner suggests that they first look into a cafe and rest a little, and then they go to admire Asha's flowering. Arriving at the cafe, the girl assures that this is indeed the best place in the world. When asked how the boy found this place, she says that he is amazing. Zakhar thinks that asking his wife's maid was the right decision. Watching how the girl enjoys the delicacies, he remembers the maid's words that Ella likes sweets. Noticing that the boy is not eating, she decides to ask him about it. He replies that he just doesn't really like sweets. Seeing the pecan pie, which is light and not sweet, the young lady gives a fork with a piece of pie to the young man. Ellie notes that if she had not married him, she would not have been able to visit such a cafe. She is really grateful to him for everything. Milady shares that if you think about it, it is worth getting married. The boy becomes interested in what these words mean. Suddenly, the heroine tells that she did not plan to get married at all. Zakhar immediately darkened when he heard these words. The young master decides that she regrets marrying him and asks her about it. Ellie assures that this is not the case and that unforeseen situations happen in life. Zakhar thinks that if this were not an unforeseen situation, then she would not have married him. The young master notes that even if she thinks so, he has nothing to say. The girl is surprised by such a vulnerable nature. She also explains that this does not mean at all that she did not plan to get married at all. According to her, if the conditions are suitable, then the rest does not matter. The young man is interested in these conditions, and she talks about them, talking about her beautiful appearance, physique, beautiful character, and the availability of money. Thinking about whether the young master will be able to adapt to these conditions, Ellie notices that he just fits. When the girl offers to go, Zakhar suddenly says that she is a very dear person to him. Also, the boy assures that he will protect and respect her and will try to become a good husband for her. In response, she takes his hand and promises that she will never let him go first. Noticing that the young man always worries too much, she offers to put aside useless worries and enjoy the festival. When the girl saw chicken kebabs, she decided to buy 4 pieces. Zakhar wondered if she had eaten. Ellie answers that there are 2 stomachs, one for food, the other for sweets. In any case, the boy considers the most important thing for his wife to have fun. Suddenly, she finds a new dish and asks Zakhar to try it. Asking him how it tastes, Zakhar agrees with her. Milady decides to say that she thought that Duke's son would not be able to eat such food. The boy explains that this is all because it is much better than a hiking ration. Together, they happily enjoy the Asha flowering festival until the very evening. "It's amazing," Zakhar says, and the young lady is interested in what exactly surprised him so much. He says that despite the fact that people live in the city that will be ruled by the young Duke, they look happy. Ellie explains that all these people can enjoy life thanks to him because he protects them. The girl hopes that Zakhar will forget all the nonsense that is said about him and asks him to believe her words. The silver dragon of winter, the progenitor of the Hassanvites ducal family. The scent that the dragon from the legend loved for a long time is the scent of Asha's flower. According to the young owner, Ella is the only person who can talk to him with such a smile and does not compare him to anyone. He decides to tell her that next year, and after another hour, and so endlessly, as far as possible, he would like to visit this festival with her every hour. "Good," the young lady replies with a smile to such pleasant words. Ella feels sorry for the fact that she has not yet learned to dance, because she is not of age. Next time, she definitely wants to dance. Suddenly, the heroine screams from the pain in her leg. She thinks that she put on new shoes for nothing. Ellie assures that everything is fine with her, but the young master decides to take her in his arms. The young lady asks to lower her to the ground because she only slightly rubbed her leg, but the boy does not intend to do this. He believes that it is necessary to see a doctor, and Milady is surprised by someone who can consult a doctor about ordinary corns and also notices that people are looking at them. Having put the girl on a bench, Zakar says that he will go buy medicine, but still he would like to carry her in his arms. However, they will catch your eye. Ellie thanks him for his concern and assures her that she can be alone, so he can quickly go back and forth to get the medicine. "Wait a little bit," says the boy, walking away from his wife for a very short time. After some time, he returns back, but to his great horror, the girl does not refuse on the spot. A little earlier, strangers approached the girl. Seeing them, she immediately thought that she should have gone with Zakar. A group of men decided that the little lady was lost and rudely asked if he was walking her home. Mentally begging them to leave, Ella tells them that everything is fine and that she has a chaperone. Suddenly, they take her by the hand and she starts to scream, but she covers her mouth with her hand. The heroine is advised to keep her mouth shut for her own good and not make a fuss. Strangers begin to discuss that the girl may be from a very distinguished family. Therefore, they can get a good sum for her life. In addition, they notice that she has a cute face. Ellie thinks that she can't let them grab her and starts to fight back. They forcefully, overwhelming the number, take her out of the alley, but the lady manages to leave her shoe as follows. Realizing what could happen, Zakar begins to shout his wife's name in horror, running past a crowd of people. The boy asks passers-by if they have seen a girl with pink hair, light green eyes, and about his height. But, unfortunately, none of them saw her. He starts to run further, hoping to find her, but suddenly he sees a shoe that Ella left behind. In the alley, men find a bag with money from a girl. One of them suggests first of all to lock up the mistress and think it over carefully, while the other one asks what kind of ransom should be set for them. Thinking about the bad outcome of events, fortunately for the young lady, Zakar finds her. The boy's violent emotions lead to the fact that his whole body is filled with winter magic. He thinks that if he goes wild now, the duchy will be destroyed, in the last case half. Therefore, he cannot lose control over himself. The young master asks for forgiveness, but assures that it will not take much time. Allies, knights, and even father and mother feared and despised such monstrous strength of the young man. Since everything will end quickly, he asks the girl to close her eyes for a while. The kidnappers wonder what kind of nonsense this kid is carrying. Approaching even closer, Zakar decides that he must calm his emotions. But with thoughts, how dare these people touch Ella, he sends a cold wind at them. Closing her eyes, the girl begins to wonder where such a cold stream of air came from when it's spring outside. Not understanding how the boy was able to injure the kidnappers, they begin to call him a monster. Holding a knife to the heroine's throat, one of the men says not to approach the monster. He threatens that if Zakar tries to get closer, the young lady will die right away. However, the young master assures the criminal that he will die before this happens. With just one wave of his hand, the boy kills the offender who threatened his wife's ego with death. Realizing that no one is holding her, Ellie touches her cheek, and realizing that there is someone's blood on it, she calls her husband's name in her mind with horror. Seeing what had happened, the rest of the kidnappers began to pray for the young master's mercy. "Excuse me, will you be spared?" Zakar asks, noting that the problem has not yet been resolved. Criminals say that they were wrong, and on this, the boy asked how it would be wonderful if everything could be solved. He simply said that they were mistaken. But unfortunately for them, this is simply impossible. The young man explains to them that they touched something they shouldn't have touched. He again uses his monstrous power and directs it directly at the crowd of people who are still conscious. After that, screams of pain began to be heard. Zakar realizes that he should stop, because if it continues like this, then perhaps he will wipe this city off the face of the earth. Suddenly, the young lady asks him if he hears her voice. Still keeping her eyes closed, she asks the boy to calm down a little. When he realized what the young master had done, he tearfully begged Ella's forgiveness, saying that he was really sorry. The young man asks whether he, possessing such power, can be called a man. Zakar asks his wife if she will be able to tell after this that he is not a monster. The girl asks not to cry ego. Wondering if he always thought that way about himself, she explains to him that it is not his fault, and even if he is to blame for something, she will still not leave him until the very end. The heroine again assures him that he is not a monster, asking where the boy saw that monsters were as beautiful as him. Wiping away tears, The young owner thinks about how his companion in one moment calmed his raging strength. "Have you calmed down?" Ella asked what he answered more and less. Smelling blood, the young lady wondered if he had killed people. Seeing the trembling girl, Zakar asks if she is afraid of him. The young lady explains that it's not the case. She's just not used to it. Not long ago, a knife was put to her throat, and she's only just begun to come to her senses. "I'm sorry," says the boy, wiping the blood from my lady's face. He didn't want to show her this side of himself. If she didn't know, according to him, she wouldn't care. The girl thinks about what she should tell Zachary that she is fine. However, she suddenly becomes short of air. Seeing this, the young master recalls this symptom, which the soldier also had when he went into his first battle. The boy asks Ella to take a deep breath and exhale, but she can't. Holding her face, he asks her to forgive him for his rudeness. After these words, Zakar kisses the young lady, intending to help her. The young man asks if she is okay. Seeing only a blushing girl, he asks her to follow him and not open her eyes yet. Having gone further, he allows her to open her eyes, but still does not look back. Almost falling, Ellie notices that everything is finally over. Asking to forgive his ego for his rudeness once again, Zakar lifts his wife in his arms. At first she asks to let him go, but moments later the young lady thanks him for saving her. According to the boy, he does not thank him for anything, because if he had not left her alone, nothing would have happened. Ellie says that she herself decided to stay alone, but he thinks that he should have thought more about her. Milady with a bright smile offers to return together to their house. Hearing "our house," the young master starts to cry because he assumed that she would hate him. In response, the girl hugs her husband, whose tears don't stop flowing, saying that everything is okay now. Carrying the young lady, Zakar tells her that the aroma of Asha's flowers comes from her. She explains to him that these flowers are in full bloom, so it is natural that he feels this aroma everywhere. But the boy notices that it is coming from her. Ellie believes that the young master is probably just delusional, but he still stands his ground. The girl surrenders under the pressure of her husband, saying that if he says so, then so it is. Suddenly, on a spring evening, under the scent of blooming Asha, snow begins to fall. When they return home, they are met by the Duke, who again says that his son is a monster. Despite the fact that he knows what a poor and underdeveloped nature Zakar is, the father is surprised by today's events. Believing that the boy has finally lost his mind, he asks him if there was such a need to prove in this way that he is a monster. The Duke notes that he has shown himself to be a monster in front of the girl he calls his wife, and whom he cherishes so much. Zakar thinks that if he were here alone, it would not be difficult for him to endure such treatment. He is used to everything, but Ella is next to him. He recalls that even when he showed winter magic, the girl did not run away. She said that her monster-like appearance does not frighten her, and also the young lady offered to return together to their house. Then the young master decides that he will not run away. His winter magic and the name monster are his original sin. Zakar admits his mistake. According to him, it was a potentially dangerous situation, and he is deeply reflecting on his action. Herzog asks the question, does the boy think that it is possible to resolve such a situation? He just thought about his behavior. Earlier, the young man would have thought that his father's words were absolutely true, but now he believes that such a quantity of fallen snow will not cause any damage to the duchy. The monster could be furious, says the man. He also notes that the boy knows perfectly well what this means, but still dared to say such a thing. If Herzog was so angry because of this, Zakar would accept any punishment. But the young master says that the reason why he was born a monster is probably because he inherited the blood of the Hessenweitz family. How dare you say something like that? The man speaks and rushes at the young man. Reminding him of whom the Duke has lost, he kicks the boy. The father lifts his son from the ground, takes him by the collar, and shouts that he dares to hit him again. When he swings his fist again, Zakar suddenly stops his hand for him. The Duke asks what the young master is doing now. Enough, says the boy, and his father is perplexed. The young man says that he will no longer quietly tolerate his violence against him if he strikes again. Pushing further, Herzog shouts that he knows with what kind of heart the boy endures all this. Ella intervenes in the altercation, who grabs the man and asks him to stop. He looks at the girl and for a moment sees in her his dead wife. My lady explains to His Holiness that Zakar acted in this way for the sake of her salvation. Bowing her head, she says that if anyone is to blame for what happened, it is her, so she asks to punish her. The boy rushes to his wife, asking her why she says that. When he hugs her, the girl assures him that everything is fine with her. Zakar convinces the young lady that she is not to blame for what happened. Looking at his father, the boy explains that she does not need to receive any punishment and that she does not need to apologize. Watching the children, the Duke sees his late beloved Adele again. Clenching his fist, which is covered in the blood of his son, he asks how much longer the woman's shadow will haunt him. The girl asks to let her go, again convincing him that everything is fine with her. She thinks about the fact that in order for Zakar not to suffer, she must at all costs receive His Eminence's forgiveness. Trying to ask Herzog for forgiveness, she notices that he is thinking about something. Looking at the young girl, he sees Adele again, who turns to Theron, asking him if he also knew that she would never love him. Zakar convinces his father that all the blame for what happened lies entirely on him, and the young lady has nothing to do with it. The boy says that he is ready to do anything to protect Ella, even if he has to use this power. The young man knows who his father lost because of him. All this time, the young master endured violence from the Duke. Even if it was not done by him on purpose, it was the only way to atone for his guilt before his father, who suffered because of him. Just as Ellie is the only important person in the world for him, His Holiness also had such a person. Zakar shares how he saw countless people today. According to him, they all looked very happy. Thanks to Ella, he realized the reason why people could be happy, because he protects their feud. According to the boy, all he has is power that can be useful. Therefore, from now on, he is no longer going to live as a monster. Zakar has chosen the direction of his life. He is the next Lord of the North and the youngest Duke, who is obliged to protect his people. And he also decided that he would be a husband who protects his wife. From now on, he will participate in endless battles, not in order to pay for his sin, because now he knows what it means to him. In addition, today was his last time, as he unquestioningly put up with the violence of his father, because if this continues, it will upset the young lady. The Duke, as a punishment for what the boy did today, orders him to stay under house arrest for a week. "I will carry out your order, father," the young master assures, bowing his head. Before leaving, Herzog lets Ella and Zachary go. Arriving in the room, the girl asks for forgiveness from the young master. According to her, it happened because of her. The heroine believes that if it were not for her, he would not have had to use magic, and then the Duke would not have beaten him. Wiping away her tears, the young man assures that everything is fine with him, and most importantly, he is glad that she did not receive any punishment. Hugging the girl, Zakar says that he is very grateful to her again. Ellie thinks about the fact that because of her, he is in a lot of pain now, so she does not understand what he is thanking her for. The boy says that she is the first person who took his side. Thanks to her, he was able to tell his father that he was not a monster. Therefore, the young man asks never to forget that she is a miracle and the savior of his life. "Fool," answers Ella, "I can't hold back my tears." During the Duke's not-so-strict punishment, the heroine came every day to the locked door of the young master's room. They talked about the fact that the situation with the criminals was settled. In the end, the girl advised the boy to rest a little, because he is not a workaholic. Noting that the people had hurt the ladies, he still intended to deal with them and would stand by it until the end. Zakar says that he would like time to pass faster. The girl is interested in why he wants this so much. The young master explains that when he becomes an adult, he will finally be able to inherit the title, and then it will be in his power to protect it even better. And so 3 years passed. After this winter, Ella will be 17, Zakara will be 19, and peace full of anxiety continues. The mistress comes to her husband's match, in which he successfully defeats his opponent. The boy praises Sir Foden for a job well done. The rest of the knights watching the fight notice that the lady even came to watch him. The heroine greets them, giving them food in bags. Zakar approaches his wife, and noticing that the weather is very cool, he asks why she came here. The girl explains that she came here to help her husband. The knights noticed that the boy was blushing and began to tease him about it. "Everything fell silent quickly," the young Duke orders in response. When they go further, Ellie notices that the guy is sulking, but despite this, he asks to eat a sweet candy and relax. When they are completely alone, the master asks why the girl constantly brings something to eat for the knights. She explains this by the fact that if she treats them well, they will treat her well too. However, Zakar shares her observations and that they sometimes look at her with a lecherous look. The master asks if the heroine saw that recently Thompson turned red like a tomato, and so did Pele. In response to Ella, the question arises that now the relationship between the guy and the knights has improved. However, he believes that they did not really become friends. However, Ellie thinks that their relationship has become much better than before. Noting that, his face became more emotional, and now he clearly expresses his opinion. Milady looks at the guy and suddenly notices that she has accidentally started drooling. Looking at the castle, Ellie realizes that it is really beautiful. Sighing, the girl shares that she is in a good mood. "Hey, I really like it, sitting here with Zakar." The ducal castle of Hessenweitz with the unique elegance of an ancient building. In addition, there's also a huge duchy, and her husband is the heir to this. The heroine thinks about the fact that if it were not for the princess, she would never have crossed paths with Zakar in her entire life. Suddenly, something catches the lady's eye. Noticing this, the guy starts to worry about his wife. Examining her eyes, the master thinks that he has not been with a girl at such a close distance for a long time. According to him, Ella was initially beautiful, but now she has become even more beautiful. He manages to remove something from his wife's eye. She considers it a relief, because she was very uncomfortable because of it. Noting that enough time has passed, the lady says that it's time for them to slowly return home. Zakar remembers that today is an official dinner with his father, and therefore he does not want to go at all. The girl explains that they need to go after him anyway. In addition, the chef promised to prepare chocolate eclairs especially for the lady, so she asks him to get up immediately. But he will stand up if she takes his hand. The heroine says that they are no longer children, and it's time to live up to their age. The young man notes that if she behaves like a child, she knows that this marriage cannot be dissolved. Laughing, the lady talks about feeling like she married a swindler. They come to dinner, and the Duke meets them. 3 years ago, after that day, the relationship between them changed a little. His father still called Zakar a monster, but stopped resorting to violence. Her husband also no longer tried to earn the Duke's recognition, and at the same time, he tried not to cross the line. However, these relations cannot be called good. They just diligently play their roles. Although it is much better now than that day, the girl is still afraid that she might be snatched away. Therefore, she cannot touch food. Zakar decides that the lady is cold and asks her about it. She assures that everything is fine. Despite her words, the Duke asks the servant to throw more wood into the fireplace. Another changed circumstance. Since that day, the attitude of the head of the family towards her has become surprisingly softer. The man asks if the temperature is normal now, and Ellie replies that everything suits her, and Svetlos thanks him with a smile. Looking at her, Herzog thinks that Adele has never smiled so much either at him or at their little son. He wonders if they could not be similar to these children. The father tells Zachary that this time he will also go on a campaign to subjugate them to the power of the barbarians. The heroine notices that the guy has only recently returned from his last trip. Barbarians are a minority outside the duchy. In the past, they often plundered their domains. Therefore, Zakar went to them several times in 3 years to subjugate them. But it was not without warlike tribes, and it will be bad if they meet Zakar. The heroine asks why her husband needs to go camping again. The Duke knows about this, but the imperial family has expressed concern about the northern barbarians. The imperial family strives to divide the Duke and his heir, adopted a daughter from a poor family and sent her as a companion of the younger Duke instead of a princess. However, as a result, the relationship between father and son, which was not very good at first, seems to have strengthened. And when things did not go as originally planned, the imperial family tries to put pressure on the ducal family in this way. Zakar wonders if he should then mark his surname in order to prove his loyalty to the imperial family. The father replies that this solution will make it easier for his son to get the title later. The guys wondered why Herzog was worried about it. The man explains that this is natural, because the Duke is a family that can reclaim the imperial throne at any time. However, a person who has someone to protect sometimes has to bribe other people. Ellie asks if what was said applies to her, and the head of the family praises the fact that she quickly caught the essence. She believes that in order to protect her, Zakar has to unquestioningly fulfill the will of the imperial family and therefore asks for forgiveness. The guy objects to her request, saying that it is not her fault. The Duke explains that it is not because of her. The heir of the family is personally sent to conquer the barbarians. He explains that the imperial family has always been wary of the Hessenweitz family and is afraid that it will not be able to enrich itself at the expense of the north, and the problem with the barbarians is simply added to complicate the situation. According to Herzog, Ella's influence on the situation as a whole is very insignificant. Zakar agrees with his father and therefore asks the girl not to feel burdened by something. Suddenly, a servant brings her mistress chocolate eclairs, which were prepared especially for her. Looking at the brought sweets, the young lady assures that everything is fine with her. A little later, Zakar goes to look for his wife, who, according to Mary, went out into the garden without taking a cape with her in such cool weather. According to the younger Herzog, my lady looked very upset, so he is very worried about her. Suddenly, he stumbles upon Ella, who is sitting on a tree. "Oh, Zachary, how long have you been here?" asks the girl after seeing her husband. Before Zakhar came, the girl helped the chicks that fell out of the nest. Then she asks the chicks to be more careful next time and not fall out of the nest. Looking at the echo, Ellie thinks about the fact that she cannot help the guy in any way, but she hopes that he will not suffer because of her, because, according to her, she is of no use. Suddenly, Zakhar's voice is heard, calling the young lady. She looks around, and seeing the boy, asks how long he has been here. The younger Duke replies that it doesn't matter, because what she is doing now is very dangerous. The girl decides to go down herself, but the owner asks her to sit there and not move. "I'll get you out of there myself," Zakhar shouts, and after these words, Milady is torn from the tree branch. Fortunately, he was able to catch her in time. The guy scolds her, saying that she could get hurt. In response, Ella asks for forgiveness for making him worry. The young man asks his wife why she climbed the tree. She explains her concession by the fact that the chick fell out of the nest, and therefore she climbed the tree to help him. The heroine is interested in when Zakhar will release her to the ground. He answers her that never. This will be her punishment for climbing a tree and putting her life in danger. A little later, he puts her on the bench and asks Ella why she looks so upset. "Is it because of what father said at dinner?" suggests Zakhar. The girl explains that she considers herself guilty of the fact that he is forced to take part in wars so often. Ellie asks who she is, so that the guy would suffer so much. It's a pity that he has to endure so much pain because of her. Putting a cape on her, Zakhar reminds her of what he told her earlier. She is his savior. She said that the guy is not a monster and that she needs him. According to him, in his entire life, she is the only one who said such words to him. Ellie explains that it should be natural, because he is not a monster. However, the younger Duke considers this case special, because so far she is the only one who looks at him as a human being. Saying that she is a very dear person for him, Zakhar asks to stop self-flagellation. Ellie recalls that she said something similar herself, and she did not think that the words she said would come back to her. Putting her head on the boy's shoulder, the heroine says how glad she is to be able to spend time with him in this way. The next day, the father and the young lady escort Zakhar to his next trip. The heroine says that the guy must return whole and unharmed from head to toe, otherwise she will scold him very much. "I promise," replies the younger Herzog, and kisses his wife on the forehead. The girl starts blushing at this and says that others are watching. Zakhar notes that he will not see her for more than a month, so, in his opinion, it was permissible for him to do something similar. In response, she asks him to return home as soon as possible. In the end, the host takes my lady by the face and says that they will see each other exactly in a month. After the knights have left, the Duke turns to the girl and says that he needs a man who could take care of her education. If Ella is going to deal with the internal affairs of the ducal residence, then, in his opinion, she needs to learn a lot. The heroine, having heard about this, thinks that this means that Zakhar's father thinks of her as the mistress of the family. But the man talks about one problem. The imperial family recommended Countess Laurent as her tutor. This woman is Zakhar's aunt and part-time owner of the residence of the family in which his wife was born, in the county of Laurent. As he had already said, the imperial family was going to remind them of themselves, but he did not think that they would interfere in their affairs in this way. Herzog recalls a dialogue in which a man says that he knows how a man likes his younger sister, assuming that she might also be much happier if she marries him. And only after that, when they got married, he found out that she had a husband whom she loved very much. And Count Laurent, thanks to this marriage, was able to occupy a central position and become part of the imperial family. The Duke believes that as Zakhar's wife, she knows what she must do. "I understood everything. Thank you, Your Grace," the girl replies. She understands that this is a chance that a man gives her. Now she has to learn to manage the internal affairs of the residence, as she is the wife of the next Duke. For this, first of all, she should not postpone the meeting with the one responsible for her enlightenment sent by the imperial family. A little later, Mary reports that Countess Laurent has arrived. Ella wonders how this woman managed to come right to dinner. For her, this means that she should stop eating and come to meet the Countess. The girl considers this action very childish. Getting up from the table, the heroine goes to meet Miss Laurent to see what she represents. "Nice to meet you, Lady Blanchette," says Countess Laurent in greeting. The heroine replies to her goodbye and thinks about what exactly this woman called her, noting that she should have called her Lady Hessenweitz. Ellie assumes that she did it on purpose to break her morale. After looking at my lady, Countess Laurent says that the girl is very beautiful. She believes that nothing can be done about it, because this weakness is inherent in the Yuga. Smiling, the young lady thinks that the Countess is already driving her crazy. After entering the room assigned to them, Miss Laurent says that until now, Lady Blanchette did not know much about the affairs of the residence, but now she has nothing to worry about because she will be with her. As a sign of respect, despite the fact that she did not even know her closely, the Countess immediately decided to visit Ella as soon as she received the order. According to the woman, there is hardly a person who would know the ducal residence as well as she does, because her daughter-in-law was the owner of this castle. Expressing her gratitude, the heroine wonders if she wants to show respect. People come at dinner time and pull the person right out of the table. The girl asks the Countess if she has any other reasons to do this for her. The woman replies that it is all because she is the younger Duke's aunt, and in her heart the residence is like a home. Ella wonders again in her mind if Miss Laurent is going too far with this. The Countess wants to tell my lady about the residence step by step. However, from everything she told, the girl already knew, especially about her husband's forays. According to Laurent, there are many famous families in the north, and many star-like ladies adore the younger Duke. In fact, if she had the chance, she would like to send her daughter to Zakar. "Ah, it's understandable," answers the heroine sullenly, sipping her tea. The Countess also shares that she is very worried about Lady Blanchette. According to her, regardless of the fact that she married Zakar by order, she still remains the daughter of a Vicomte, who has, in fact, no family name in the south. Miss Laurent wonders if the difference in family status is burdensome for Ella. I understood that the girl had just heard. She was thinking that she could tolerate the criticism of the southern nobility or the discussion of their relationship with Zakar, but she would not tolerate insulting her parents. Turning to her radiance, Milady explains that she does not intend to speak, but asks to change the topic of conversation. The Countess is horrified by what she heard, calling it unheard of rudeness. The young lady explains her decision by the fact that she comes from the Viscount family, which has no family name and grew up in the south, steeped in weakness and warmth. Ellie believed that as a woman chosen by the imperial family, she thought that Laurent would give her advice on how to survive here. Therefore, she does not even know who is really rude. The Countess objects to the said words, claiming that she came specifically to give advice. The young lady asks a question. Is it really a woman's advice? There were words that many ladies of the north, like stars, adore her husband. The heroine finds it strange that the Countess thinks it's a tip to tell her wife rumors about how her husband is popular with the opposite sex. Lady Blanchette is not the most ideal match for Zachary, but because he is on the side of His Majesty, he heeded his order and, rejecting many ladies, took her as his wife, says Milady. That's how she interpreted the words, Countess. Ellie asks a question. Maybe she misunderstood something. Of course, the woman replies. If, according to the Countess, she does not mean anything evil or offensive, then Ella can tell their conversation to her husband and father-in-law. However, Laurent objects to this, calling her Blanchette. The girl corrects her, asking to be addressed as Lady Hessenweitz. At the behest of His Majesty, she has long since become a member of the ducal family. Milady thinks that if she does not have her own strength, she will have to enlist the help of the power of the tiger. The heroine suggests that the Countess probably did not want to be dismissive of the marriage concluded by His Majesty himself. She asks whether the woman mixed up the surnames by chance. In addition, the girl asks to return to the conversation about rudeness. She is already legally Zakar's only wife. Treating her like that means insulting her husband, Ella thinks. Milady asks the Countess whether she, being the mistress of a family, thinks that her address to the mistress was pleasing. No, answers Miss Laurent. The girl is happy that they agree and asks to get help from the woman in this case. The young lady wonders if the Countess will teach her how to manage the internal affairs of the residence, and also, in her opinion, something directly would be a little rude. But she is wondering if it is true that the relative was involved in the internal affairs of the ducal residence. In her opinion, it is worth sticking to a certain trait. Ellie wants to make sure that she is in charge of the affairs of the ducal residence and that Miss Laurent is only there to help. When asked if she agrees with it, the Countess replies that Lady Hessenweitz will allow it to be done. Since then, Ella began a fierce battle with Miss Laurent. The woman tried to interfere in the affairs of the residence in any way, but nothing worked. Immediately open the door to this room, the Countess orders the maid. The maid tries to explain that the late Duchess lived there and it is strictly forbidden to enter there. Saying that she is responsible for the education of Lady Hessenweitz, she snatches the keys from the room, intending to open it herself. When she enters it, the woman begins to think that Adele successfully married and became a duchess. She would also like to make her life so successful. Looking at the equipment of the Duke's deceased wife, the Countess believes that she lived drawing or joking until her death. Laurent believes that the woman was born under a lucky star. Turning to the maid, she asks why and does not follow her order to replace all the rugs with new ones. Ella and her maid, getting up, heard the scandal that the Countess had arranged. The servant assures the woman that he will ask the mistress about it and replace the carpets if necessary. "Do you still dare to say something like that to me?" asks Miss Laurent and slaps the servant in the face. The heroine comes with Mary to them and asks the Countess what this means. When asked what is happening here, the Countess explains that she only taught a lesson to a disobedient maid. Realizing that it will happen now, Ellie tells the injured maid that she can be free. The heroine believes that using violence against a servant is not something a noble lady would do. According to Laurent, it is impossible to disband those who are subordinate to the mistress. She believes that she should keep them in hedgehog mittens. Ellie does not think that this should concern a stranger. As far as she remembers, they had already agreed on this issue in the past. The Countess claims she did it to help Lady Hessenweitz. Milady notices that the Countess did something that could offend his father-in-law, and this clearly does not help her. The girl asks the woman if she knew that it was strictly forbidden to enter this room. Ella asks to leave immediately, before this incident reaches Duke's ears. While the woman is leaving, the mistress thinks what a daredevil she is if she entered the room of the late Duchess. The young lady notices that there are a lot of paintings here. Mary says that this was the hobby of the Duke's late wife. Milady is surprised by this, because Zakhar and his father always kept their mouths shut when the conversation was about the Duchess. Despite the fact that Ella was never able to ask what kind of person she was, she wanted to at least look at the traces that she left. Lady says that her drawing skills are not bad, and notes that there are almost no fully completed paintings. Examining the room, the heroine finds a sketchbook on the table. When he opened it, she saw drawings of people serving the Duke's castle, but she did not find Zakhar or Herzog. They were never depicted in these sketches. Having closed the book and put it back, Ella wondered if there was any particular story. Mary remembered something, tells how she heard that one of the paintings painted by Her Grace hangs in the portrait room. This is a room where portraits of members of the ducal family are collected, and later portraits of the girl and Zakhar will be placed there. The lady is surprised that the late Duchess also drew portraits. "And who exactly?" My lady is interested. Mary suggests that perhaps the younger Duke is depicted in the picture. The maid notes that, like the heroine, she has never been in that room. Despite the fact that she has been working here for a long time, the main maid is simply responsible for that room. A little later, Ella is summoned by the head of the Hessenweitz family. He tells that he learned that Countess Laurent dared to enter his wife's room. The lady asks for forgiveness for this and promises to explain everything to the woman, so this will not happen again. However, Herzog did not call her to report. The man says that the insolence of the Countess is beginning to cross all boundaries. Ellie believes that it is her fault. Knowing that Milady was also in that room, Herzog assumes that she wanted to visit the portrait room. Noticing her reaction, the man realizes that she is really curious about this and she confirms his guesses. Herzog shares that he plans to show it to the young lady in the near future. According to him, it took time for her to see this room. In any case, Zakhar is very fond of her, as is he. A man thinks about something, as if he is going to say something, but in the end, he asks to forget it. Suddenly, Ellie notices some medicine in a jar on the table. "Your Grace, are you not feeling well?" The girl is interested. In response, he hides the bank and assures that this is not the case at all, and everything is fine with him. Leaving, the heroine ponders Herzog's words, and how she thought that he was not paying any attention to her at all. However, she is still bothered by an incomprehensible bottle of medicine. In any case, Duke said that he is fine, so Ella decides to believe him. The psychological war between Ella and Countess Laurent recently reached its peak. The heroine wonders what to do if the Countess does not even know how many spare daggers she gives the knights. The same with the new leather armor. Their quantity is less than requested. The woman believes that it is not necessary to pay so much attention to the knights. The mistress decides that the Countess does not know the situation in the duchy very well, since she is only a female relative of the nobles in the north. My lady asks if Laurent has forgotten that the Duke's family is the most aggressive line of containment against barbarians and demonic beasts. "I know it. It's just me," she replies. Speaking simply, Ellie thinks that the example given by the Countess is to some extent reasonable. The woman believes that in any case there is a younger duke. Laurent thinks that they will not necessarily pay due attention to the night squad, because Zakar can handle his own magic. In a frightening tone, the heroine asks what she wants to say. Ellie tells how she was here when Zakar was still a boy, and did not forget that the inhabitants of the north called him a monster and turned away from her. She accuses the Countess of hypocrisy. Miss Laurent realizes that she touched on the wrong topic and claims that this is not what she meant. Suddenly, someone calls the heroine, and this someone turns out to be the younger duke himself. The girl is surprised at his arrival because the period of submission has not yet ended. Zakar explains that he was able to show patience because he missed her, telling that everything ended well. He thinks about how to yearn to touch my lady if possible. However, the young lady notices that there are no other knights and decides to ask why. The guy answers that they are following him. He came alone and now assumes that the rest will be possible tomorrow. The young lady is horrified because the successor of the duke's castle has returned alone without an escort. Have you been to Herzog's yet? Ella is interested. He tells that as soon as he returned, he immediately came to her. The heroine scolds him and says that first of all he should go to his father. The guy wonders if his dad is not the kind of person he can greet at any time. According to her, if he thinks so, then it is the same in her case. She also notices that he looks quite tired. Zakar explains that she is a completely different matter. He looks at her again and again, but it's still not enough for him. The mistress asks her husband to come down to greet the duke and then go to rest. Zakar stares at the tenderness of his wife. Every time he realizes that her warmth is not an interest in the opposite sex, his heart goes cold. But she is the only light in his life, so he cannot let her go. Suddenly, the countess turns to the younger duke. Noting that he has grown into a beautiful young man, she asks if he remembers her. He replies that he remembers her, and Miss Laurent says how glad she is that the guy is back safe and sound. The countess says that she was going to give his wife some advice, but she doesn't know how to do it, because according to her, the girl insults her even right in front of the servants. I was just trying to help her, the woman says, and Zakar assumes that his aunt must have done something wrong. The young man explains that Ellie is not the kind of person who will be angry for nothing. The boy remembers Laurent's words, and he begins to guess how she thinks about her nephew. Zakar asks the question, if there is any problem, the almighty monster will not always be able to solve it. The countess explains that she is simply glad that he has great power because it is majestic power. If she thinks so, the master asks why he received only contempt from others all this time. With the exception of Ella, according to the guy, there is not a single person in the north who does not despise him. The master assures that he will no longer tolerate rudeness like today's. It becomes interesting to him how an adult woman from the northern nobility throws a challenge to a girl who will soon become the mistress of his house. The countess shouts that she is Zakar's aunt. Then she wonders why he treats her like that. Laurent notes that His Majesty will be extremely displeased with what happened today. Having heard about the emperor, Zakarou thinks that the countess has forgotten on whose land she lives. From the oppressive feeling, the woman has nothing to breathe. The master says that all the nobles of the north take an oath of loyalty to Hessenwites. Since his mother came out of Miss Laurent's family, he tolerates her arrogance. Therefore, the younger duke advises the countess to never forget this, saying that they show too much patience. Go back to yourself, the young master orders. And with tears in her eyes, trembling, Countess Laurent leaves the room. After what happened, Ella wondered if it was possible to do this with the puppet of the imperial family. Hugging from the back, Zakar says that he wants to sleep. The girl answers that he can return to himself and sleep. Put me down, asks the guy, which the heroine is surprised by. The young man says that he fought a lot with demonic creatures, and it seems to him that the corpses of these animals will be his dreams. Despite the fact that he has such a calm face in the opinion of the mistress, he returned to her after countless cruel battles. Milady is wondering how she should put him to bed. Zakar suggests that if she sings him a lullaby, he will fall asleep like a baby. The girl has no idea who the younger Herzog looks so much like to behave so childishly. He also doesn't know who he looks like, but he knows who makes him such a child. Taking his hand, Ellie shares with him that it is impossible for him to say something nice. Although she told him to go take a bath first, she thinks it's a little indecent. Trying to get rid of such thoughts, the girl assures herself that Zakar is like a younger brother to her. When the guy comes out of the bathroom, the heroine asks him to lie down on the bed immediately. Applying ointment to the wounds, Milady reminds her husband that he promised to return without injuries. He apologizes for this, but he could not advance the nights. Wasn't it painful to wash? Ella is interested. She's going to put on a bandage, so she asks to stand up for a while. Zakar notices that now the girl is a master of bandages. She says that it's all thanks to him. When the heroine collects medicine, the guy asks if she forgot something. The lady is interested in what her husband is talking about. Lullaby, he answers. She's surprised that he was serious about it. Ali makes it clear that she doesn't want to do this. And Zakar asks her if, after she said that she will sing a lullaby, she will not do this. Still, the girl agrees to it, because the guy is too cute. A black night is coming, and the echo is smiling brightly. A blanket is cozier in the moonlight. After these words, the master falls asleep. Taking a lock of his hair, Ellie thanks him for what he did for her today. Kissing his forehead, the girl wishes him good night and sweet dreams. At this time, Countess Laurent bursts into the Duke's office and says that his son threatened her simply to protect Lady Hessenweitz. The man asks if she told him what she wanted. The Duke tells how he heard that the woman showed disrespect to Ella. In his opinion, it is natural that Zakar protects his wife. Therefore, the head of the family believes that he should not interfere in this. In addition, he notes that the Countess dared to arbitrarily enter his wife's room. Since she is his son's aunt, and although not blood, but also a relative of Adele, he has been patient until now. If there is resistance from Zakar, the Herzog insists that the woman take responsibility for education and rest for the time being. Laurent thinks that if she is thrown out like that, the order of the imperial palace, which placed her in the Duke's house, will not be fulfilled. In particular, the Crown Prince, who took away all the real power instead of the Emperor, who was struck by an illness. Grafia is horrified by the eyes of the head of the Hessenweitz family, comparing them like snakes. The Duke wonders why the woman is still in his office. The man says that if she wants the knights to drag her out of here, he can fulfill her wish. "I'm leaving," answered the Countess after the Duke's words. Thus, Miss Laurent was expelled less than a month later. Looking out the window, Ella asks the maid to look at the falling snow. Mary tells that it snowed all night, and the lady is surprised. Milady is interested in where the younger Duke is now. The maid replies that because a lot of snow fell, he left in the morning to inspect the borders of the feud. If only the heroine knew that so much snow would fall, then she would gladly see Zakar off. Ellie thinks about how her husband works a lot. It's very similar to him, but he wants him to return home as soon as possible.